Hello and welcome. This is Charlotte Jacobs from Thrive Academy, and I am so glad that you are here. It is Thrive Thursday, episode number 42. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Vondette Brinson on how she overcame not just one, but two life-threatening illnesses. And each time she was able to come back and build her practice really quickly. So this is going to be a really inspiring story, and I'm really thrilled that you're here to join me for this. And when you get on if you're here or if you're actually watching the replay, you can do hashtag replay. But I'd love to know where you are from and what you do. All right, I'm going to bring Vondette on. All right, Vondette, welcome.
Glad to be here. Thanks so much, Charlotte.
I am so glad you are here. It was a few weeks ago that I invited you to be a part of a panel of about 8 coaches and holistic practitioners, and we had some technical difficulty and we couldn't get you on the interview. So I'm really happy that you were available so we could do this today.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. Things happen for a reason, so that was probably for good.
A full interview instead of like a 6-minute interview. It's good. Everybody's got to be wondering. So let's first start with a check-in. I know we're going to be talking about how you overcame 2 life-threatening illnesses, not just one, but 2, and then quickly built your practice. But let's start with where we are today. How's your health? Are you doing well?
I'm doing very well. My last PET scans and MRI in February came back clear. So the brain lesions was gone, the bone lesions were gone, the lungs are clear, and nothing in the breast and lymph nodes. So
oh my gosh,
I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear it. I think we all want to know, we all want to start with that good news before we get into because some of the tragic things that happened to you. So let's rewind a few years and start with, let's just actually start with everybody wants to know what you do. So you're a traumatologist. What does that mean?
It means that I work with, in my position, I work with people who have chronic pain issues. And when I do that, I address the physical, mental, emotional, psychological, and spiritual issues that contribute to the physical pain. Mm-hmm. So whatever trauma that they've experienced either now or in birth, and sometimes we even get into when they're in the womb, we address it, we overcome it, we shift and change what do you call it? The way they think, how the cells are programmed, and then they go on to get their healing.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So it's not just physical. You're actually doing the deep spiritual work to uncover, why, all the levels of trauma.
Yeah, because like I say, most physical pain, it's there. But if you think about like someone who has, they lose a limb, and they still have the pain, but the limb's not there. Mm-hmm. So it's a pain cycle. So you have to break that. And a lot of times it has to do with the transmissions that they're still, the stories that the brain is still telling them. And then the cells have their own memory.
Interesting. So, yeah, I don't know if I told you this, Vondette, or maybe you remember Jesse talks about at the Client Attraction Summit. He tells a story of, me building my practice and then my father getting in a nearly fatal motorcycle accident. He lost a leg. So my dad wears a prosthetic and he's got that phantom pain and has had multiple surgeries after, the original surgery. And I know that's pretty typical. We're glad to have him alive, but maybe he could benefit from what you have to offer.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would go there with the deeper spiritual work. We could try. So let's rewind a little bit. I know a little bit about you. I actually don't know your full story, but I know a little bit about how you actually had seen several, a couple thousand patients, and you had doctors sending people to you, even people who had had surgery and were still not getting the pain relief that the surgery was supposed to provide. So tell us a little bit about how you started in your practice, because you have a long history. I remember actually reading about all these things you did and thinking, wow, I had no idea you had done all of these amazing things in your life, doing some international work. But let's talk about how you started your practice.
Well, I started my practice originally as I was working with people who had scars from burns as an esthetician. And I started that back in the 80s.
Okay.
And so working with the the scarring. Uh, that's how I got started. But because I lived in a small town, and a colleague of mine from another city started working with him, and she suggested that he bring me on so that I can see some of his patients. And that's how I got started. So I started in a little one traffic light town.
Oh, it's where was that? Where was this one
That
traffic
was
light?
Crescent City, Florida.
Crescent City, Florida. I have never been there. um,
And if you did, you'd miss it because
I
it
would
says one traffic light.
one traffic light. Wow. Yeah. So little, so an esthetician practice, you got brought on by a practitioner, and then what happened from there?
Then there was a product that I wanted to try and test, but I had to have a massage therapy license in order to touch people.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went to massage school. And then I found out while I was in massage school that even just doing simple little things, I was getting phenomenal results. See, I guess I have to take it back because I've had the gift of laying on of hands since I was 5 years old. So
Mm-hmm.
people were getting their healings, whether I was doing anything or not. Just sometimes I would be just called into the room, didn't have to do anything with the presence. So I did that. And then again, with this particular doctor, he started letting me see his patients who were in the assisted living facilities. So I started out there, and I had about 10 in one facility where the people were a lot more advanced in going on. And then in the larger facility, I had about 25 clients there. So I went there to see each of them once a week. And I was getting some phenomenal results that the owners of the home went to take some of the trainings that I did because she was just blown away that was happening. See, because I was one of those who went to school. When I went to school, I had to learn everything. In 18 months, I had spent 6 figures learning all these different modalities.
Wow.
So
Wow.
after learning all of those, then I started putting together and taking a little bit from here and a little bit from there. And then I started developing my own system. But it was each customized according to the person I was working with.
Got it. Well, and I'm curious. You mentioned something earlier that you were born with this laying of hands on gift. Did your family accept that in you, or did they pretend that wasn't existent? Because you were saying you started this in the 80s, and even me being in my 40s now, I know that so many things that were considered really woo-woo are more accepted nowadays. But just curious if that was, if your
No,
family was accepting of it.
no, and I was always the strange one, the one who was there talking to herself or things
Right.
like that. But because I could hear things, I sometimes responded out loud. So yeah, I was a strange one. No, the
Got it.
family didn't really take too kindly to a lot of things I did because it brought attention that they didn't
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, I think for a lot of us that have some intuitive abilities or are born with some gifts, that there is that struggle, and especially depending on how old we are and how aware and awake our parents were and our family was, that struggle of really that not fitting in, feeling like we just don't really belong to the mainstream, like something isn't
That's
right. And I think that also gives us a lot of strength, as there's a wound there that also gives us a lot of strength. But I love that when I see thrivers come together, because it's like we can all understand that experience and be like, yeah, we weren't accepted, we weren't included, and we belong here. And so I appreciate you sharing. Thank you. So you started getting results. It kind of almost feels like your whole healing practice was an accident, although it also sounds like it was divinely orchestrated at the same time, like one of those divine accidents. Right.
I always say I'm living my purpose, walking in my destiny.
Beautiful, beautiful. So tell us what happened from there. So you started getting, you spent 6 figures on training. That's phenomenal. You had these gifts. You started doing this work in the assisted living facilities. So worked with a lot of patients and started getting great results. And what happened from there?
Then there was a therapist in Jacksonville who was having clients that she wasn't getting a lot of good results with, and she asked if I would come up one day a week and see her, and I did. And they told me then, well, you have to charge much more than we do so we can
Mm-hmm.
get our clients back. And so
Mm-hmm.
I did. And so even before I went to Thrive, I was still getting almost $200 a client.
Good for
But
you.
I didn't feel that I deserved it. I was only doing it because, in my own practice, I didn't charge that much. But when I went to someone else's practice, that's what I was charging.
Got it. Yeah.
So, yeah. So then eventually I moved to South Florida. And that's where I had my first accident, where I had a severe brain injury.
So what happened with the brain injury? What were your capabilities once this happened?
It was a lot of memory loss. So a lot of the things that I was doing, I didn't know what I was doing. It was so bad that if I went down the street and turned the corner, I couldn't remember how to get back home.
Oh my gosh.
So it was horrible. It was probably the worst thing. Because my fear had always been Alzheimer's.
Uh-huh.
Because I worked with a lot of patients in the facility who had it. So my thing had always been not knowing who I was or remembering things. So I lived my worst fear.
Wow.
And then it was during that time, though, that just before that, I bought the home study for your
For
program.
Client Attraction Mastery. So you actually came, and what year was this? I'm curious.
2011.
2011. That was the year Zach was born. When you have children, everything is related to how old your children are. So that was when Zachary was born. And I didn't know that you actually came through home study first. So you had just bought the home study. You were getting ready to build your practice, and you got in a car accident. Was it a hit and run, or was it?
It wasn't a car accident. Actually, it was a freaky accident. I was in a client's home that asked me to come because she couldn't. And the husband came in, and he didn't know I was there, and they let their massive dogs out, that were like,
oh my goodness.
And I started to move and run, and they had a step that you had to step up into, and what I did was I tripped and fell, and I broke the corner of their oak dining room table with my head.
Oh my goodness.
As well as my head. But yeah, so the fall was horrible. And like I said, I knew it was bad when you see a piece of the wood on the floor.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah. But that's how the accident happened.
Yeah. And what was, so, you ended up with this brain injury, and, were you able to work at all during that time?
Not in the beginning. And I was really getting to the point where I had severe depression. And I was at a point where I wanted to kill myself. I just didn't see a reason for living. And one thing I tell people, if people that start trying to give away everything, especially things that are important to them, that's probably a sign that they're thinking about killing themselves. Because that was mine. I took everything that was important to me and I started giving it away.
Wow.
And when I got to some of the trainings that I had taken, I actually started thinking, oh, I wonder about this. And I started doing some of the techniques that I had learned on myself. And all of a sudden I got more clarity in my thinking. And I started remembering a little bit more. And after a while, because I still had people calling who wanted sessions. So I said, just to one, I said, but you'll have to come to me. I says, and I'm going to place the manuals on you. Do you mind? They didn't mind. They actually thought it was part of the treatment. And they didn't mind because they were getting results. So
you actually had to go back to doing your treatments while reading your manuals. Mm-hmm. Because you couldn't remember how to do your work.
Yeah, I didn't remember those particular protocols, but I was getting the results. So no one minded that and occasionally now I pull out the manuals because I don't always have it always up here.
Sure. So there's actually some permanent damage that you sustained. Wow. Yeah. So this woman comes to you. She doesn't mind the manuals being on her body while you're doing the treatments.
Didn't mind at all, and she started getting results, and then again I started getting the referral because I had a referral based business. I'd never done any advertising at all. Mm-hmm. And it was while I was doing those treatments, I just started seeing maybe 5 to 10 people over a month, that I came out to the summit. I don't know if it was
And this
called something.
was, yeah, it might have been called
2011. That was July
2011. Okay,
2011.
2011. It wasn't called the Client Attraction Summit at
Yeah,
that
it
point.
wasn't called that then.
But yes,
But
so you came out and, living in Florida, flew out. You still live in Florida, correct?
I still live in Florida, yes.
Okay. So you flew out to the summit. It's a long trek to come across the country.
Yep.
You'd gotten the home study, you had this brain injury. You were able to actually heal yourself almost completely from the brain injury. Whereas, I'm curious if, Western medicine was even able to do much for you.
No, and and sometimes I'm a little ugly with the doctors because I always tell them what they do is called practice, and I don't want to be the guinea pig. So,
You're a little like one of those obstinate patients that you're like,
I'm the worst. I am absolutely the worst. But then I always get the best doctors when I do that, because those doctors who are willing to work with me and don't mind me doing the things I do, then I get much better results. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of us think it, but we just don't say it out loud. So,
well, I think with the head injury, that's what happened. Sometimes my filter don't turn on.
Right. The filter doesn't turn on. So, okay, so you start seeing patients, seeing about 5 patients a month. You fly out from Florida to California to come to what's now called the Client Attraction Summit, and what happened for you there?
Well, it's funny because I was like, I'm going to go. I'm not going to be able to do any of this. I'm not going to remember it. I'm going to go. I'm going to get my $100 deposit back.
Yeah.
And then see what I can learn. And then I'm coming home, which was funny because not only did I give you the $100 back for the key, but I signed up for the platinum program.
Yeah.
I didn't even have real income coming in, but I believed that it would show up every month, and it did. I made those payments every month on time. But the thing that turned me around was when Jesse had us do that walking into it, so that about the money and giving ourselves a raise. That's when I gave myself the raise for my own clients. I went from $100 to $180. That was my fee. Yeah. So immediately I started making more money. And what I did was those people who were coming in at the lower rate, and they came at that rate till they were done, but all new people came in at the advanced rate. Eventually I did go up to 280 for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. And it's worth it. It sounds like to me, Vondette, that people get pretty extraordinary results with you, and you know how to position yourself well. You're confident in your work. And so immediately there's this interesting thing that happens, that if you raise your rates and you start doing packages instead of just one session at a time, and you start seeing more clients, like those 3 things together are like an exponential growth. But I love that. Right from the summit, you raised your rates, you started making more money with all your new clients. Right. And then what happened?
And then when I went to the first training we did, it was called something different back then, but that would be the Client Attraction.
Client Attraction Mastery it is now. Yeah.
I went, and then I just changed it all so that I wasn't really doing single sessions anymore. I did packages. And so in that 30 days, I did my first $10,000 a month.
I remember.
I wasn't working nearly as hard. I didn't see nearly as many people. And right after that, then I was still doing a lot of the hands-on work for the scarrings, but I started working on clients who had blocked fallopian tubes and endometriosis. So I was doing more of the internal scarring work. And then I just raised my rates to what I did a 20-hour hands-on package that come in for that week. And I charged $5,200 for it.
Got it. So you really do intensive work with people. And here's the thing. We also often talk about a niche, and it's a hard thing for people to grasp, and people are usually resistant to the idea, or they know it's important, but they can't figure out what to choose, or they've got it and it's working. You really fully went for it and chose to work with a very specific niche. And when it's that urgent of a problem, people are willing to pay $5,200 for an intensive treatment with the idea I'm going to get healed a lot more quickly. I mean, who wants to drag out their healing for several months, right?
That's right.
Powerful.
And the thing is that we were getting results. And so,
Yeah.
like I said, I always had a referral-based practice. So as long as I was getting results, people were willing to pay.
Right. And I love it. The $5,200 is less than surgery, right? Even with the copay. So
another therapist asked me, well, why do you charge so much? And I say, because people are willing to pay it.
Well, it matters enough to them that they really are wanting to get that support and that help. So I think that's great. Yeah, that's great. And yeah, people are willing to pay it, and not everybody can afford your rates, and that is okay. There are plenty of other people out there who will work with those folks, but you only have a certain amount of time, so you can work with the people who are coming to you.
Yeah. And usually when I'm working on them, that was one person that week. So they were who I was working with. That was my only client that week.
Yes,
so
makes sense.
I had to do that. And like I said, they were people who had tried. They tried several things. Some of them had already had IVF and failures, and they'd had the surgery done, block the fallopian tubes. But I was like, when you have surgery, you develop scar tissue. So, your window of opportunity is like little or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, I'm one of those who was a niche switcher.
Uh-huh.
So every time I did something, I switched my niche.
Yeah.
But I didn't stay in that very long. I did it for maybe a year. I helped several women have those babies.
Mm.
But I realized I wasn't so much into all of the hands-on work. I wanted more of the energetic work that I was doing.
Mm. Yeah. And Kathy says, by the way, I just put her comment on the screen. She says, inspiring. I promised it was going to be an inspiring story. Thanks. Thank you, Kathy. So Vondette, so then practice is going well. You were mostly recovered from the brain injury using things that you did in your own healing to support yourself to heal. And then, I remember getting a message from you that you had been diagnosed with cancer.
Yes. And this was my third diagnosis. I had over the years had it, come and gone, had it, come and gone. And I had always treated myself prior to that. But this time when it came back, that was in 2004. I was metastatic, and it had spread to multiple parts of the body. And I went to see doctors, and they were telling me one thing. Every doctor told me something different. And I was about to have surgery. And then actually the Friday before I was supposed to have surgery on that Monday, I canceled it because I had another doctor who actually told me, don't let them do what they want to do to you. And when he said that, that just rang true with me. So for the next 2 years, I started working on myself because the largest tumor that I had was 10 centimeters. I had multiples, but that was the largest one. So over the next 2 years, I worked on myself, and I had that shrink down to about 3 centimeters. So the largest was 3.2 centimeters. And then I went back to see doctors because I moved from South Florida to Orlando during that time. And I went to one place, and all the doctor there was speaking death over me. If you don't do what I say, you're going to die. You're at this point, you don't have much choice. And everything out of his mouth was death as far as I was concerned. I'm like, I'm not letting you watch over me. So I asked to switch, and they wouldn't allow me to switch doctors in the practice. So I told him, I says, well, cancer is pretty big business. So watch your money walk out the door. And then I went home and I prayed. I says, now you need to send me the doctor who is going to be right for me. I said, because I had a promise that the cancer was not going to kill me. But I didn't have a promise that the treatment wouldn't. So in my mind, the treatment would kill me. So I had to get over that. And that's what I was working on for those 2 years, that conventional treatment would not kill me. And then I found a doctor. And the first thing he did was he sat down. He says, well, let me tell you, I've had many clients over the years in your position, and they are still alive. He said, so we don't even use that word around here.
And that is the doctor that you want, right? The one who was telling you that. Yeah.
and then he said, he says, what I am, he says, I'm a praying man, and I pray for my patients every day. And I said, now this is the man I'm going to see. And I said, so now they've told me I can't be cured, and I'm probably going to die in the next year. So why should I take these treatments? And he says, he told me I had a good point. I said, because I know the treatments will make you sick. And I says, and if I've only got that amount of time, I'm not too particular about spending it on treatments. And so he says, well, what we can do is we'll just do 4 rounds every 3 weeks, one every 3 weeks. And we'll see what you're doing. If nothing's happened, then we won't do anything. And I said, okay. And
these are rounds of chemotherapy and radiation therapy. Is that right?
No radiation. I did not do radiation.
Just chemotherapy.
Chemotherapy with 2 targeted therapy drugs. I did an infusion once every 3 weeks. And I had my groups. What I did was I set aside prayer groups. So one with each medication and their side effects, they would pray around that. Wow. So that I didn't suffer the side effects. And so I did very well. After the 3rd one, actually, when I had another PET scan, and my lungs had already cleared.
Wow. Prayer is powerful. Prayer is like one of the most powerful healers. So it's incredible.
So because of that, and that a couple of the lymph nodes had already cleared, I went ahead and let him do the 4th one. And after that, he took the chemo drug out, and I just do the targeted therapy from now on. So we did that. We did targeted therapy only for a year. And then when I went back at the beginning of this year, there was the still small lesion of the in the brain, but everything else was clear except a 2 centimeter lesion in the breast. So I had them cut that out. I had them cut the one out the breast. And then in February, I went back again, and I was clear. The brain was clear. Everything gone. So
congratulations. It's super inspiring. And I love all the different modalities that you brought into play in this work. And I remember when you first came to Thrive, you had locks down to your butt, if I remember, like really, really, really long locks. I know some people call them dreadlocks, but I was reading, I don't know if you know Francesca Ramsey, who does the Decoded MTV. She says, there's nothing dreadful about my locks. So I just call them locks now. But yeah, these beautiful locks that went all the way down to your butt. And then you came to a Thrive event. Were you in the middle of treatment when you came to a Thrive event? But I remember your head being like wrapped up in, so did you lose your hair during treatment as well?
I did while I was actually in chemo. And I was like, and I didn't mind losing the hair. It was the eyebrows and the eyelashes that bothered me.
Right. Because you're like, I can put on a headdress, I'm good. But you can't cover.
I could shave a head. In fact, I walked around proudly with my bald head. And it's just that but my eyebrows are just starting to grow back now.
Yep, so I can see. So you were in the middle of treatment, or you just finished treatment when you came back?
I finished, except for the targeted therapy, pretty much is for life, because I expressed a protein that makes it grow back. And that's why I kept coming back. So, I still go for the targeted therapy every 3 weeks, but I don't have any side effects from it. And I'm good to go. I just schedule things around it.
Awesome. Denise is over here sending some hearts our way. So thanks, Denise. I love, we've had quite a few people come on and say hello, Kelly and Connie and Nicole here. So I'm really glad to have you all here. So Vondette, what happened to your practice while you were undergoing chemotherapy and treatment for cancer?
Well, I shut it down because I needed to focus on me. So, for a full year, 18 months, I only worked on me. And
you were your only client.
And I was sitting in church one day, and the pastor like, well, Vondette, what do you do? Because it was a new church I was in. And I told him, I says, well, I work with people who have chronic pain. He says, well, why aren't you doing it? He says, God put you in this position, so you need to go out there and do what you're supposed to do. He says, and I was like, wow, I've been chastised because I was thinking, I was like, I don't really need to go back out. I was just actually, I think what I had done is I started living like I was dying,
Mm.
instead of living like I wanted to live. So at that point, then I just started saying, okay, then I'm going to start seeing clients. I was very selective, very few, and I didn't do the high price packages anymore. I just did, some medium things because I was getting my feet wet again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started having to work on the idea that, I'm not worth it again. How, because I felt like such a hypocrite when I was unable to treat myself in the beginning, that, I had to learn that, everything isn't for everybody and we all have to go a different way. And because I had always been the person who did the hands-on and saw results immediately, when it didn't happen, it was horrifying for me. But anyway, I'm back to seeing clients. My practice is mostly long distance now.
Mm-hmm.
My client is long distance. If someone has to have manual therapy, then they can come in and we can work on them. But mostly long distance. I do a lot of energetic and consciousness based therapies, a lot of talk. I also have hypnosis. I got a lot of tools in the box.
Mm-hmm.
I treat them according to what they need at that time. So,
Well,
yeah.
I want to share a couple of comments here. So Connie says, "What an inspirational story, blessing." And Denise says, "I can totally relate to this. When I was in this situation, way to go, Vondette. Wow, such strength. I did this the alternative way and found success. So glad to see you thrive." So
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, so you let your practice, you shut it down. Your pastor said, "What are you doing, Vondette? This is what you're put here to do." And that is an interesting thing because I do find that sometimes when we are in the process of some kind of a healing crisis, there's this idea that we should just completely and totally take care of ourselves. And there's absolutely a place for that. And then there comes a point where if we just are focused on ourselves, we make things worse rather than getting better. Like when we aren't living our purpose, then we are not doing what we're here to do. And that can actually deter our healing and have us go backwards. And I found this for myself that, I've dealt with some autoimmune things. I'm actually quite on the other side of a lot of autoimmune conditions. And when I've gotten into that like spiral of feeling bad about myself or bad about my life because of how my body's feeling, and just focused on that, I don't seem to heal and I don't seem to progress as well. And all it takes is like get on camera, get on stage, get on lead a call, and suddenly I just kind of pop out of it a little bit because I'm showing up in service to others. And I think all of us can relate to that. So what is that? Where do we find that time where we're going to choose to have part of our healing be our contribution to other people? So I
Yeah.
love that you said yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I found out that I feel so much better when I am working with other people because it's like I give, but I receive at the same time.
Yeah. It's a beautiful process. So I remember you coming back to Thrive after being gone for a while. I remember actually we did a little fundraiser for you, or we did something. Were you at that event when that happened? Like we had you were in the middle of treatment. Yeah. What was going on
that was
there?
just before I was supposed to go and have surgery. That was 2014.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I came back again. Was it this year? Earlier this
Yeah. I
year?
saw you recently.
Yeah, earlier this year. And because that's when I was going back into business. I was full throttle starting to redo my business. And so I put together smaller packages and things that people could receive treatments on a daily basis. And then I'm currently putting together, like I call it, the healing gym, where they get the laser focused sessions. Because sometimes, if we're helter skelter, then the body doesn't know what it is that you really want it to do.
Right.
So yeah. So I started to rebuild my practice, and I'm doing pretty good actually. I'm I'm grateful because, like I say, because it's long distance, And again, it's referral. So once someone starts to get results, then they tell somebody else.
That's great. So this is the second time that you've built your practice. I love this, there's so much inspiration in this because there is you overcoming the illnesses, which, life-threatening diseases, a brain injury and cancer, and coming out of those just on its own is really inspirational. And I love that you actually used your work to help you heal. I love that you actually use living your purpose and doing your business and seeing clients contributing to their lives as part of your journey to help them heal. And I also love, I have to say, I love that, you pulled out your Thrive materials the first time, had your first $10,000 month, and life happened again, and you ended up in another life-threatening illness when you got cancer for the third time. And when it was time to get back out there, when your pastor said, "Hey, Vondette, you have, what are you not doing? What are you thinking?" When he prompted you to get out there and do your work again, you pulled it's like you have all those heart selling skills, you have all those client attraction skills, and you were able to use them again to build yourself back up again.
Yeah, because I feel like Thrive is family. That's the one thing. I was like, yeah. I tell everybody I know about Thrive.
Oh, thank you. Well, we love you coming back, again and again to Thrive events. I think you're a lifetime member now, isn't that right?
No, but
it feels like you are.
Next time I come, I will be.
Nice. Yeah. Some people just, it feels like family, and you're like, yeah, of course you are. So, I love it. And, what would you say to someone who, was getting started with their practice or kind of was in a lull and it just wasn't going as well? What would you recommend to them?
Well, as Nike said, just do it. Mess up. It's okay to mess up. But you know what? If you do it the right way, people think that's how it's supposed to be done. You're the only one know you messed up. So use the tools, take it. And I still now put that template in front of me if I'm doing consultations, so I can follow it. I want to make sure that I know. And like I said, and the other thing is give yourself a raise. You deserve it. You're worth it. Those are the two things. Use the tools.
Use the tools. Give yourself a raise. I love it. And it's really interesting to me because I love that you actually keep your consultation template out now. And for Thrive clients, we actually have an app now on the iPhone and Android where you can have the consultation template in front of you and you can customize the pieces that are for you. Because I have found that every once in a while, I'll talk to a Thrive client who hasn't been to an event for a while, and they're like, "Oh, my practice is suffering. My business is suffering." I'm like, "What happened?" And we usually find out they're not following the template. And, it's like people don't like templates. They don't necessarily want to do something that seems templatized or, like a standardized, but it's really about taking it and customizing it to make it your own. But there is a process by which, the potential clients really feel like they get great value, and they are often, they're likely to talk themselves into working with you. So I love that. Like, use the tools and give yourself a raise. And, for those of you who are listening, if you would like to experience what Vondette experienced and you'd like to join us at the Client Attraction Summit, I want to offer you a gift, and that is a full scholarship to the Client Attraction Summit. So you can go to giftfromthrive.com/summit. That's SUMMIT, giftfromthrive.com/summit. And you can opt in to get a great, funny, I think it's kind of entertaining, free video series, gives you some great value to get your practice started. And then really, we can say give yourself a raise, but until you actually do that inner transformational work that shifts your thinking about yourself, it's difficult to do that. And so I find that, we found that 95% of the people who have come to the Client Attraction Summit in the last almost 14 years have given themselves a raise. So would love for you to join us there. And if you want to just get started, you can go to giftfromthrive.com/art of attracting clients, and you can get a free copy of our book to get you started on some of these ideas that we've been talking about today. So thank you so much for coming today, Vondette. If people want to find you, what is your website? Where do they find you online?
They can find me at painfreesuccesssystem.com. Or go
Wonderful.
on the Facebook page, same thing, because on the Facebook page, I do offer some little techniques and things that you can learn and do. And on the website, you download a free video that will actually take you through one technique where you'll start to see results immediately.
Great.
And of course, then you can get your consultation there too.
I love it. I love it. So, all these things that you have learned with Thrive over the years, you've put into practice. And for those of you who even want to see what that looks like, so you head over to painfreesuccesssystem.com, or is it also Pain Free Success System on Facebook? Great.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Any last words, anything you want to leave anybody who is listening with? Oh, we lost Vondette. I don't know what happened. Oh, you
No,
popped.
there we go.
There we go. You popped off. Vondette, you popped off for a moment. I don't know what happened. Maybe we had an internet goof.
If you're on the fence about doing the Thrive events, do it. Just go into it. See for yourself. I promise you, you won't you won't walk away disappointed.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate your loving endorsement. We love having you in the Thrive community. I love how you're showing up in our Facebook group, Coaches and Holistic Practitioners Who Changed the World. Vondette, I just really feel like you're one of the cheerleaders in there for everybody that's in there, because a lot of people haven't come to Thrive yet, and they're struggling in their business. They're suffering, and they can't actually, they don't even know that there's so much they don't know about what it takes to really build a successful coaching or holistic practitioner business. And so just thank you for all your encouragement in that group and for continually sharing value with everyone there.
My pleasure.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. We'll say goodbye for today. Until next time, until our next Thrive Thursday, this is Charlotte Jacobs signing off, because your people are waiting for you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.